Hi, Tamal. Thanks for coming on the show again.
Thank you.
Now, after RBI's announcement, banks have been raising rates in a quick succession. And you highlight in your column this time that it is a double whammy for the economy. But what does it mean for the banks themselves? Because as I understand, Treasury would not be of a help either. Are we looking at the worst year of banking after they just had their best year?
No, not exactly, because yes, indeed, the treasury income will be affected, and probably the first quarter, most banks, I would like to believe, will be in losses. In fact, I know I can't name the banks. I know a couple of banks, large banks, they are in losses in the first quarter, because the pace of hike has been very rapid. Within a quarter, 90 basis point rate hike, and you can see how the bond market behaved. When the pace is gradual, which we expect to be, I think Treasury is prepared for it. The first hike was, they are not prepared for it. They were expecting a hike in June, but not earlier than that. So, having said that, would the Treasury make the kind of money they made in the last 2 years? They would not. But the Treasury, the loss in Treasury income will be more than compensated by the bank's higher interest income. The so-called net interest margin will be higher, because you see the banks are slow in raising deposits. That's point number one. And even if the deposit rate goes up, it's only applicable to the new deposits. The existing deposits continue to be priced at the old rate. Whereas the loan is an instant transfer. For the floating rate loan, particularly the external benchmark limit. So what is happening is this: your cost of funds not going up as fast as your earnings on this funds going up. So the interest income will be far higher this year, in fact, if you see. So which will compensate for the Treasury income. So I don't think it will be a worst year. It will be as good as last year.
Now, this is very interesting because you just talked about the floating rate part. And you highlight somewhere, and it's an interesting calculation that you make, that the 100 rupee loan that was with the SBI, 22 was fixed, 78 was floating. Out of that 78, I think 42 was MCLR, if I'm not mistaken, 35 was ECLR, out of which 23 is repo and 12 is T-bill. Now, where do the MSMEs figure in this calculation?
All MSME, I repeat, all MSME loans are linked to EBLR, and that's a concern. All MSME loans from December 2019. Now, Reserve Bank of India has done it for faster transmission, because what happening is that was you remember, till 2019, it was a low interest rate regime. But now in a rising interest rate scenario, when the interest is going up and up and up, it will be. Globally, you are seeing that, and we can't be in isolation. So definitely the loan rates will go up, and MSMEs will be hit hard. It will have an impact on the demand, so which means it will have an impact on the growth, GDP growth, and also it will have an impact on the bank balance sheet. Probably the default rate will rise. It's also a question of, I should not be a Cassandra, but financial sector stability. We need to wait, see the RBI FSR report, which is...
Now, it's very interesting because you talk about this. We are talking about the MSME side. Let's talk about the consumers. How will the rate increases work for the consumers? Will their tenure change, or how much they're paying? Because the common man is very worried about this thing.
No, this, for instance, if I have taken a loan and say I have an EMI of $1,000. Okay. Now, typically banks try to stretch the tenure, not my EMI quantum, and I think they have some age in mind. Suppose, depending on the age, if he says that if the tenure goes beyond 75 years, I am more than 75. In that case, they will not stretch the tenure. They will raise the interest rate, the EMI. And for NBFCs like, say, HDFC, as a home finance company, home loan company, I think they have what is the maximum tenure of a loan can be? Is it 20 years or 25 years? And if it says that stretching the EMI to that extent covers up within that period, it's fine with it.
Now, I'm taking you a bit away from your banker's trust this week to an issue that has arisen, now, and that is the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Code. Now, although its performance has been better, it is still not what the government expected. Its debt resolution has slackened over the last 2 years, and most of the companies that are there, I think 47%, if I'm not mistaken, are in liquidation. How can the government restructure it or make it more effective, according to you?
Well, you have touched a raw nerve. Actually, this is a problem. We have not been doing well, but it's too early to write it off because remember it came into being in August 2016, and it's a record time. And you also need to compare it globally. So, and it has been fraught with a lot of litigations and various things and all. But and then of course we are seeing in some cases the backdoor, the promoters tried to get into the backdoor entry, etc.
Yes.
It's a very complex issue. Again, we are in some sense we are unfair to promoters, and particularly to those who are not willful defaulters. For external reasons, my business has collapsed. So why shouldn't I be allowed to come back and bid for myself? I mean, globally, promoters are never treated this way. You see, we treat them like lepers in the previous century in a village. You become an outcast. So yes, indeed, there are rogue promoters. So that's one aspect we need to look into this. And yet another aspect, most important part is this. You have to see when an asset is sold, what is the enterprise value? There are certain kind of assets which have no value, which absolutely have no value. So you can't expect more than 5 or 10 or 15%. And that brings to the third and most important part of it. I mean, we go on, how do we auction it, the Swiss challenge method and all sorts of things. But nobody talks about asset preservation. Globally, part of the insolvency also the asset preservation. Here we don't have any asset preservation. So if I have a plant, I just put some securities that the instruments are not stolen, but it gets junked over a period of time, and there is no norm within the IBC for asset preservation.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time this week. We hope to see you again next week. Thank you.
Thanks.
If you like this video, share it and subscribe to Business Standard. For more news, views and insights, log on to www.business-standard.com. Do also follow us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Telegram and LinkedIn.
I am the blue of the limitless sky. I am the inspiration that lets success soar high. I will achieve, I will fly high. I am the I in SBI.
I'm backed by the nation's trusted bank, SBI, the banker to every Indian.